Alright, now it's time to, there you go, to follow the tracks. So now we're basically playing for pretty much the entire section with piloting an helicopter. This is actually kind of fun, to be honest.
You know what I think some of the problems with these kinds of stories are?
What?
They're trying to play 80s action movies straight, but ramp up the jingoisticness to 100.
Also, I can tell you this, we're not actually on rail. You actually have to pilot the helicopter on your own, which means, yes, you can also collide with objects if you're not careful.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know, they're trying to make those. They're trying to have those movies, but play them more straight and ramp up how awesome America is.
Oh. Okay, that's one way to drive a helicopter.
I need to get better on the king side.
But yeah, to be fair, Ribs, I'm not sure if I would classify this as sort of an 80s ceiling. Like, I would say this feels more like a modern warfare type of story here and there. Like, I think, okay,
There we are.
I think we summed up the issue pretty well enough in the last part here. It's simultaneously over the top, but playing it by the numbers as well. It's like they're going through a checklist of all the war is hell cliches, and it's done to a point where it feels like it's over the top at first, but then you realize, this is kind of really just put there as something they need to have.
This feels like one of those shitty films that came out during the late 2000s, early 2010s, like movies like you guys were talking about Battleship. I remember one that was Clash of the Titans. That one movie was also,
Clash of the Titans.
During that era of films, I mean, most people have not forgotten it for good reason. But back in those days, there were a lot of terrible action movies coming out that were basically equivalent of these kinds of, and they were basically these kinds of movies that were basically just basically these kinds of movies that were little nothing but just 1-2 hour action sequence, basically it's nothing but non-stop action, and that kind of shit is so exhausting.
Mind you, non-stop action on paper does sound pretty cool. Like, that's pretty much Expendables in a nutshell. The thing is, you gotta know, and of course,
classic Connor.
Of course, Connor has to shoot the guy instead of just throwing him out.
Thing is, Expendables actually has downtime. Like, the characters at some point do stop and actually talk. Like, it's not like, whereas those movies that I'm talking about, Jova, I'm not kidding you. You can pretty much like 98% of the runtime is nothing but explosions and guns and bombs. Like, it's in this.
Really?
No fun. Again, trust me, Jova, there's a reason why so many of these movies have been completely fallen into obscurity. Because, they were terrible.
I can definitely believe that was kind of the style around, say, the late 2000s, early 2010s. Like,
Wasn't Clash of the Titans about 2014 or something?
Was it?
No, I'm pretty sure that was like...
It was 2010, Teo. 2010, actually.
Clash of the Titans. I heard of that movie, but
the one where Liam Neeson plays Zeus, I think?
Yes.
I have heard so many mixed things about that movie. Some people say it's a grand epic. Others say it's one of the most boring pieces of direct they've seen. Others say that it just uses CGI to way too much an extreme.
Okay, when it comes to representing Greek mythology or stories, it cannot be possibly more boring than Troy. I'm sorry.
Here it is. Here's the on Rotten Tomatoes. It has a 27% critical score and a 40% audience score. Critics consensus. And obviously, affectionate. What is it?
No, go on, Pedro.
Okay. An obviously affectionate remake of the 1981 original, released Terry's Clash of Titans doesn't offer enough visual for us to offset the deficiencies of its script. Basically, and there's a lot of critics who are even saying that it's like 1 or 2 set pieces briefly wake up the story that visit in aside from the Regiment being tricked into forking extra for third dimension, the computer animation looks inspired the last year's Then you got a nondescript mess.
Oh my god, Sam Worthington was in that movie.
Yeah, Sam Worthington had his most popular period during those times. Eventually, he also fell out of popularity as well. I mean, he's gonna be back for the Avatar 2, but I don't know, like, we'll see how things go.
So I hear, speaking of Avatar 2, I hear that Avatar recently got a re-showing, and apparently it did moderately well, so...
Again, Jova, I kinda got the feeling that we're kinda underestimating how Avatar is still remembered by the people. It might be just in this case actually the nostalgia factor going on, because the movie is effectively more than 10 years, it's like 13 years old at this point. So chances are a lot of people actually grew up watching it, so they might be actually attached to that.
I do wonder...
Relying on the novelty factor.
Okay, one thing you said doesn't make me think to you. Whereas, you know, most older people loved it at first, but then made fun of it like we do. So maybe you do have a point. Maybe the reason that the Avatar re-release did well is because it was more so the youngins at the time, like... And I mean, like,
Not
people
to mention,
who were,
it was
like...
a movie that was clearly made to be a spectacle on the big screen with these special effects and everything. So I get the idea people would have been curious. I myself would have actually been interested to see it just for the hell of it.
And you know what? It was definitely a technical marvel for the time it came out. Like, I will always hold that. Now, I will say this, though. I do hope that the sequel is actually legit good. Especially if it really is just that big a moneymaker off of being Avatar alone.
We'll have to see. We'll really have to see. Anyway, just to mention quickly, again, for the time being, since now all your crew members managed to hijack the fuel tanks, you just need to escort them. Yes, this is an air mission, but surprisingly it doesn't suck. Mostly because you're in complete control of the situation and you can actually take advantage of the mobility of the chopper, so you can actually destroy the shooting targets before they become a serious threat for your escortees. And since they move relatively slow, they do not do the dumbest thing of actually ramming straight into the danger.
You know,
that's pretty cool, actually.
So
and
we're
also Alphabet, like I said in the previous part, this mission contains essentially, my favorite music of the entire game. It's kind of dramatic, but on point for what it wants to do.
Yeah, again, like, I do feel like the deeper we're getting into this game, the harder the music is going. So, good there.
Well, you'll be able to judge ultimately the next part, because that one is the last. Yeah, we're almost at the end of the game, or not.
Okay, I will give a miss. It is cool that you do get, you know, free motion and control over this helicopter as opposed to being on rails.
Shooter. We could have easily done that, to be honest.
I love how you showed off that you can even have the trucks crash into the helicopter, but it'll be fine.
I just remembered an example from 2009 that we already commented on, Terminator Salvation.
Oh,
yeah,
that also had Sam
really,
Worthington
really
into. Didn't that?
Yeah, and that movie is painful. Like, it's absolutely.
It's also painful to look at, not just the plot.
I mean, it's Robert G, so.
No, it's painful. That's what I said to you. That movie's painful in more ways than one. It's just, oh.
And
God,
yet.
I never want to. That commentary we made years ago, that was my first time watching it, and I pulled the tail, and I was like, I never want to watch this ever again.
That's the last of them. For now, maybe. They sure as shit know this isn't their convoy anymore. We gotta keep.
I'll still take Salvation over Dark Fate any day.
Well, Dark Fate is more, of course, more irritating because of it's such a big middle finger to Terminator fans everywhere. Terminator Salvation is basically just like complete torture because the movie's just so painful to sit through.
Honestly, the sad thing is that Salvation is one of the more unique Terminator films when you get down to it. Like, it's like quite possibly the only Terminator film that isn't about a Terminator coming from the past to wreck stuff. This is us actually mainly seeing how, you know, the revolution would go on to win the war against Skynet. And you know what? It was...
It's good conceptually. It's the execution is the worst possible execution in the world, but yeah.
But hey, we got, but hey, you know, at least we got... Hey, at least we got Gwen Stacy in the movie. That was,
Anyway, there you go. His last bit of a level is actually you having to defend the bridge. While the Connor and the others plant C4 charges so that the North Koreans cannot follow them by truck.
Oh, by the way,
pretty ingenious, actually. Gone.
Since we're talking about Sam Worthington and FPS shooters, he's actually, get this, Captain Alex Mason, a returning protagonist of the Call of Duty series.
Yeah, again, I heard that even before Kevin Spacey, the Call of Duty series actually got some actual talent for voice acting.
This is actually another thing which leads to another tangent to talk about with this game. The acting. Okay. No, I'm sorry. By this point in time of gaming, I do feel like standards were up. Now, I'm not saying that they had to get the hottest voice actors or whatnot, but it feels like they went with first takes on a lot of these lines.
We mentioned in I think we mentioned in one of the early parts, but all of these people are not really recurring, voice actors. They were like TV or movie actors or voice actors, but did not have much experience with video games, so I guess also they were badly directed as well. So
yeah, and again, okay, look, regardless of their reasons, I do feel like they should have given the single-player campaign as much care as the multiplayer campaign. And yeah, I'm not feeling it. This isn't to say that the single-player campaign is complete trash or garbage, but aside from being able to freely control the helicopter here, I'm not really feeling anything that's really demanding my money's worth, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at something like BioShock. Incredibly unique first-person action with the different vigors, or potions that you can get and customize your gameplay style. Look at something like Halo, which, okay, to be fair, Halo has the credit that it pioneered a lot of stuff, but all the same, Halo worked with its weapon system in a lot of interesting ways, and that's not even getting...
Unfortunately, both that and... Sorry, go on, Pedro. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Unfortunately, both that and Gears also set up precedents of a lot of games did sadly follows, like limiting the weapon system to only two at a time, which I still do not like. I get it with multiplayer it balances out, but limited to just that, allow the single player an actual fucking wheel, like Doom. There was nothing wrong with that. But that's basically also the end of a part of the mission. So go on.
I love how you end it driving the helicopter on the ground.
Well, technically, the game that kind of started that was the first Halo, because Halo Combat Evolved was the one that started that thing about you can only have a gun, like an arm, and a more proper gun, and that's it. You can't have anything else except for grenades, of course.
Years ago, farmers and shopkeepers, printers and blacksmiths fought a mighty
yes, we're also comparing these to the 4th of July.
Why not?
Today, a new generation of civilians were
Again,
to be fair, Team America told us that Kim Jong-il was actually an alien cockroach, so who knows?
This is a war of the people.
Like, okay. To give credit where it's due, even Singularity felt like a game I'd rather play, if only because that one did have...
also had more interesting things thanks to the sci-fi setting. Like I said, the futuristic setting here is only briefly glossed over.
Yeah, again, honestly...
On our modern day, and it would be just fine.
Yeah, honestly, you'd be excused for forgetting that this takes place in the future, because,
It's what TV tropes call 20 minutes into the future, kinda, sorta. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, join us next time for the quote-unquote epic conclusion.
Dandy.